Hey, gang, welcome back to another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. Today's guest uses the natural skills of empathy, clarity, and directness to guide conversations, improving the health of businesses and teams. Let's dig into all this with my friend, Tamara Prato. Tamara, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aaron. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm super happy to. You and I have known each other for quite a long time, and then there was kind of a gap there where we didn't really talk very much. And then, you started your business, and I did my thing, and now we're coming together and we're doing some fun things together.
I'm real happy about it. I'm enjoying getting reconnected.
Yeah, me too. So before we get going, I want to make sure that I address your pronouns. So if you would share your pronouns with me, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. She and her.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. I loved starting out right from the get-go. Where were you born?
Born here, moved to Wisconsin when I was about 3, and stayed there through high school and college. So I was in the Eau Claire area and then Appleton, Wisconsin area, and then went to college in Eau Claire. And then after that, my parents had relocated back here. So I've hopped back and forth to each location a couple of times.
Yeah. So you're a border jumper.
I am.
Yeah. Good. What was your family dynamic growing up? Brothers, sisters, mom, dad, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So middle child, very clearly a middle child when you get to know me a little bit better. So I have an older brother who's 14 months older than I am, and then a younger brother who was about 4 years behind us. So my older brother was the chosen one. I was the forgotten one. And then my younger brother was the golden one. So yeah, it just
classic 3-child family, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
So mom stayed home while we were younger until my younger brother got into school. Dad was always in sales, still doing sales.
He still to this day is doing sales?
Yes, he is. 79.
What? Oh my gosh, we need to talk about that. So yeah, because there's probably some kind of nature versus nurture stuff in that. So let's dig into that a little bit. So what did your dad, did he sell the same thing all through his career or the same industry, or what tell me about that?
Yeah, definitely same industry. So always something attached to the electrical industry. So early on, Viking Electric years and years ago. And then, so whether it's switchgear, but something always tied to electrical.
Wow, that's cool. And 79 and still doing it to this day?
Yeah.
Oh,
my grandma, here's another fun fact. My grandmother, Grandma Irma, his mom, started at 3M when she was like 65 years old and retired in her mid 80s.
Really?
That's 3M. Yeah.
What did she do at 3M?
So she was an executive assistant in a couple of departments. So she was planning all these trips, travel, so she, into her mid 80s, she was traveling abroad with all of these people, setting up all these conferences. Yeah, she was crazy. She was great.
Yeah, I think my grandma worked for 3M until she was in her 70s, but she started in her 60s. But it was a very different job. She, she worked out in Hutchinson, and remember the tape dispensers? She would fill those tape dispensers with sand, and then she would put that non-slip sticky thing on the bottom, and that's what she did and that was her, she worked in the same Minneapolis Athletic or St. Paul Athletic Club, and she was a server there. But then when she retired and moved out to the country, that's what she did. Sorry, that's I digress. But there's something about that work ethic that's built into you, right? And so your grandma worked forever. Your dad is working forever. So that always lends me to now a good natural segue into the nature versus nurture thing. So, we're going to dig into your career journey in a little bit, but do you feel like you've got that balance of nature versus nurture, or do you feel like it is just ingrained into you of being a hard worker?
I think absolutely ingrained, watching my family and, my neither one of my parents were, college graduates. And so just kind of watching and hearing their journey. I was the first in my immediate family to graduate from college. I did get out before my older brother.
Yeah.
He loves to hear about that.
Sure does.
And yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So then does, so what does your brother do?
He's in sales and and he's in the electrical business.
Nice. That's your older brother, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then your younger brother?
And my younger brother is also in sales.
Oh my gosh, this is so great. So your dad was in sales, and then we'll talk about your journey. You spent a good amount of your time in sales, but I just think that that's so fascinating. That is definitely like a nature versus nurture story, because it's ingrained into your being that you're a hard worker, but also I think sales is too. And then there's also the nurture part of that as well. I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your college experience. So you went to Eau Claire. What were some of the things that you got into there? Was it when you went to college, did you have a pretty clear picture of what you wanted to do?
Oh yeah, I was going to be a teacher.
Oh,
and then I was going to be a political science major. And then I think there was one more in there. And then I ended with a degree in organizational communications and industrial psychology.
Wow, that's great. I love it. That's you, like a lot of our other facilitators have a psychology background, which I love. And you, even though that was some years back, that you still probably apply some of those things not only into the stuff you do with us, but also your day-to-day your business, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting with the work I do around being Colby certified and people's natural instincts and how that plays into teams. I definitely use that as well in my, EOS work, where helping, the dynamics, helping communication, helping, teams really become their best and their strongest. I think that that education has served me well in that way.
Yeah. And then I gotta believe, what was your first, like, let's call it real job, quote, I'm showing air quotes here, real job out of college? Did you have a sales job right off the bat?
No, well, I mean, it kind of was. So I was a legal seminar planner, if you can imagine.
Really?
Yes.
Talk about that.
Back in the day, I had 200 active programs I was working on at any given time. And so I would have to, this is why I say it was, but it wasn't a sales job. I would have to convince lawyers to speak for free at these programs. And oh, by the way, you have to write all these materials too, and let me know when you turn those in. So it was just like this huge juggling act of, again, literally paper files, because I am that old, paper files of, hundreds of different things happening at one time. Thank goodness they had someone assigned to me to help me manage the chaos. But yeah, so in a way, sales.
So but I think we probably can both agree that every job there's a sales aspect to every single job. So that even does sound like there was a sales aspect. What was your first sales gig?
First sales gig, let's see. Oh gosh, so when I got out of school back in the dark ages in 91, it was, not a great job market, right? It was, things were tough. And so I went to a recruiting firm at that point, and they hired me. Instead of placing me, they hired me. So that was really my first foray into, you eat what you catch kind of a thing. So my job was to match employers with candidates, and frankly, it was to get as many candidates to take any type of offer possible.
Yeah, right. What were you placing a specific role, or was there in a specific industry, or was it? Is it
across the board? So
really?
like I would take out, so Monday you take out the classifieds and you just pound through and call to try to get listings, to get people to give you the job listings, and then you would try to then match up candidates with them. But this was back when people were hate even saying this, people were paying this organization, thousands of dollars, nothing against Arby's, but it's an example, to get a training manager job at Arby's.
Oh, interesting. That's crazy.
Yes.
Uh,
Menards,
th-
same thing.
really?
Candidates
Retail.
were paying me $1,500, $2,000 to get a job.
Wow. Wow.
Things
That
have
how,
changed.
wow has the tables turned on that one big time.
Yeah.
So is there a lesson in that first sales gig that you took from that you just always look back on and are very thankful for that opportunity?
Absolutely. I think one thing I got very, very good at was prospecting
Mm,
and the matching of things, right? Like figuring out like, oh, okay, this is transferable, right? What they maybe did here is completely transferable into something else. And I've
mhm,
always used that principle, even with hiring and building my teams in the past,
mhm.
is drawn upon some of those experiences.
Yeah. When did you get into publishing?
Let's see. So first media job, we can start with that. Was
Cool.
at the Star Tribune.
Mm,
So again, back in the days when we were printing money,
yeah. Yeah.
literally printing money in the classifieds. So started at the Star Tribune, and I was there for a few years. I got a territory really early. I was like 23, maybe
Mm,
24. And from there, I hopped to the Business Journal, which, that's where I really, really, really honed in on B2B, and just knowing what was happening in the marketplace. It was just that for me was a turning point, I would say, in terms of my trajectory and my skills.
mhm.
Certainly got a heck of a lot better when I was there.
Did you, did they have a good training system? Like, was it baptism by fire, or did they have a pretty good structure for bringing someone like yourself on?
Yeah, I would say they had a pretty good structure for doing that. Definitely invested in training. So that was obviously very, very helpful.
Mhm.
Um, but what set me apart there, I think, goes back to what we talked about earlier, work ethic. And I was the prospecting queen again, where, because again, everything's on paper, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is,
Yeah.
I'm not looking it up in my database. It's all on paper, binders, 6 feet of binders of client notes.
Yeah.
And how you got leads was whoever came in first. So I would get there first when the issue would come out. Issues would come out on Fridays, right? So I would get there
Yeah.
first on Fridays, go through, pick out the new people that I would prospect, get it in the book, and then it's mine for 90 days.
Oh, so it was literally like there was a book that you put prospects
Yes.
into that you
Yes.
worked. So, I was having a good conversation with a young sales rep, first sales job yesterday, as a matter of fact, and like she has no guidance, and it reminds me of my first sales job, which it sounds like is your kind of first sales-ish job, where you had this business development aspect of things, where building out that set of prospects and having to do that. I can't even imagine. I try, like, she couldn't wrap her head around the fact that she has all this information at her fingertips, and that what we used to do is like trying to just maybe pull a zip code list by a SIC code or something like that. Like back in the day, it was very different.
Yeah, that wasn't happening in my day. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it
Yeah.
was literally, I would pick up the Business Journal,
Mm,
which I read prior to that because that's where I was knowing what was happening in the industry.
yeah.
Right. So I would pick
Yeah.
it up and I would literally go like, that's a good prospect. That's a good prospect. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have any other options of where I could go to get that info.
Yeah. Crazy. You spent time there for a few years, and then I believe you got into television after that, right?
I did. I spent some time at Twin Cities Public Television. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Worked with corporate sponsors. Have never seen people so passionate about their work. So that nonprofit piece really stuck with me in terms of just the passion and the impact of the efforts that were happening.
Hey, let's take a quick break and hear about a few of our supporters.
If you're anything like me, you know enough to be dangerous when it comes to finance, yet need some help when things get complicated. All-in-One Accounting provides the right financial expertise and leadership to align with your stage of growth. From outsourced accounting and bookkeeping to strategic financial planning, the team of accounting rockstars at All-in-One Accounting are passionate about positively impacting the lives of their clients. Check them out at allinoneaccounting.com. All-in-One Accounting, taking our clients from financial chaos to business clarity and beyond. Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to help guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit seilerlaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. United Healthcare believes there's no limit to what care can do. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.3 million care professionals and 6,500 hospitals and care facilities, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting you to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. Go to uhc.com for healthcare plans, resources, and more information. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives. Okay, back to the show. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between working in print versus working in television and that transition that you went through. What were some of the lessons that you learned? And just even though you're working in two different mediums, just there's got to be just a vast difference between the two.
Yeah, there was, the difference between maybe your traditional broadcast media, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think of traditional television versus print, obviously differences, but then throw in public media, very different, right? No call to action, not a must buy, right? It wasn't so much a must buy that I have to be here as much as it was an alignment of values.
Right. Right. I see that, I watch. So you were at TPT. I don't think we said that. So you were at TPT. I'm a huge fan of TPT. I think we're a sustaining member. So we pay our monthly dues and we love it. Right. And I'm a huge fan, but I always see those corporate sponsors, and there's some big corporate sponsors that are a part of this. And that was your responsibility, right? Was to go out, find those, develop those relationships, and then get them to make sure that there was a value alignment in what they did versus what TPT was putting out.
Correct. Absolutely. And that was the strong tie, right? Is, associating your brand with this, quality content, information you could trust, those types of things. And that was a huge piece of the selling part.
Yeah. Did you love it?
I did. I really did. I just reached a point where there weren't many other places for me to go in the organization from what I was doing. And so I had an opportunity to work with a friend on a venture that was either going to be a home run or go down in flames. And she went down in flames real fast.
Yeah. Well, that happens. We hear all the good fancy stories, but we don't hear about. Was there one thing that you would apply? What was maybe one thing that drove that business down? Was there anything that sticks out in your head?
I think just reality, right? That it really came down to not having. Like, I go back to the work I do today. There were no processes, right? Yeah. There was no consistency with the way certain things were done. There was no framework or kind of a playbook, so to speak. And so I think that had a lot to do with it. Everything was, by the seat of your pants, which I actually do well in those kind of environments, but you can't have everyone running around by the seat of their pants, right? Because things just don't get done. And so, so it was definitely a learning opportunity.
I read a book years ago, and then I reread it when creating Coalition 9, but it's called The E-Myth. Have you ever read The E-Myth? Yeah,
It's
right.
funny. I have it on my shelf. I need to read it. I have a few books to get to.
Yeah. So what's great about that is it applies really well to that story, right? About this consulting business, is that he says everything should be rooted in systems and process first. Rather, just as much as you're building the concept, you should be building the system and the process. And then that way you can plug and play the right people in the right seats. But that if that system and process isn't there, and some workflow and things like that, it just isn't going to work. So you experienced that
I did.
firsthand.
It
Yeah.
was painful.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds faithful. So then you went from there, where I met you. So our paths cross. It's where you became the publisher for Tiger Oak Media.
Correct. Yeah.
Love it.
So I started at Tiger Oak with one idea that the owner brought me in to look at. And within 2 to 3 weeks, I'm like, yeah, this is a terrible idea. You're going to lose your shorts. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Well, now what the hell are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm telling you, this is a terrible idea. Please don't do this. Too much money. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so then fine, try this. I'm going to work on these things a little bit, right? So I started at Tiger Oak with, I had 6 titles, the community magazines, so covering, the suburban areas like Edina and Lake Minnetonka and whatnot. And over time, those started going well and saw 20 and 30% growth year over year for several years. And then I added 4 more to the mix. So I had the pleasure of launching 4 different magazines, from scratch. So same model, but focusing in on new markets. So that was really interesting and a good learning opportunity to, determine, okay, which markets are going to be the right ones, which can handle and, support that ad base, that advertising base, the sales piece of it. And then around those also created events for those titles. And then, since that was going well, then I took over Minnesota Business Magazine. And that's really where I would say my entrepreneurial skills really kind of lit up. So, created signature events, right? The Real Power 50, the Community Impact Awards, Leaders in Healthcare. We had a Manufacturing Awards, which was just started right before I joined. And sadly, with the demise of Minnesota Business over the years, other publishers have picked up all of those pieces, right? So I'm reading, I open something and the Community Impact Awards. I'm like, well, yeah, look at that.
That looks familiar.
Shoot, I've heard of that. Yeah.
So, so you spent a good time there. So it started out maybe with what sounds like a bad idea, which then turned into a bunch of good ideas. Correct. Was it just you at the very beginning, and then you built it up into that business? And then how many people were a part of that organization when you decided it was time to move on?
Yeah, so I had 35 people underneath. All of the titles that I was working with, between sales, editorial, events. The production didn't report to me, but when you think about I had 13 titles by the time I left, 13 or 14. Each having editors, sales teams. It was definitely wrangling some cats at times.
Yeah. So then how in the hell do you take and transition all of this experience in media and publishing and television, and then become an executive director of a place like the James J. Hill Center? That to me is like, there's leadership things and there, principles, and then there's business development principles, but that's a pretty extreme shift. What was going on there?
What, publisher, librarian, taking care of a really old building that I know nothing about. Yeah, it was fascinating. It really was a interesting journey. And, I have to thank my pals over at Ballinger Leaf Blad, right? Because they were part of that, making that happen. Again, talking about transferable skills that we chatted about earlier. Taking leadership, right? It was in a place of, it was very dreary, not very little was happening in the space outside of weddings on the weekends. So really trying to rebuild back the mission piece of that organization that felt like it was maybe straying a little bit for a few years. So yeah, it was taking leadership, it was taking events and programming, right? So instead of creating community around a magazine, right, like focusing in on small and mid-sized businesses with Minnesota Business Magazine, it was, okay, we are going to create a community around and support entrepreneurs and small businesses through the access we provide for databases. And the number one thing, frankly, we just need to get people in the door to even know what the heck it is that we do, right? And so, when I got there, I feel like there were 5 or 6 people, 6, I think a staff of 6 when I arrived. And at the height, it was probably 14 between all of the different things we were doing, but put a considerable effort around programming, outreach, and just being visible and available, right? And becoming a part of that ecosystem was a really big piece. Like letting people know, like, listen, we're just here to support, right? How can we partner? How can we work together? How can we serve your constituents with the information and the programs that we are providing?
What would you say as, in the time I think you spent around 4 years there. So what was the number one lesson that you took from that role at James J. Hill?
Yeah, it was my first experience working with a board of directors. So that was different, right? Instead of kind of one person, you've got 12, 14 people in the room, right? So negotiating that conversation, negotiating, just facilitating really, right?
Yeah.
And trying to pick a direction and get consensus was definitely a big piece of that work.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've talked about this a lot just because of our paths crossing here through Coalition I and stuff like that. So what's James J. Hill Center doing now?
Right. So, let's be clear, big decisions were made. I will always say that this probably sets me apart from a leadership standpoint, that I decided to, we had a couple of options that I shared with the board, one of which was that this amazing 98-year-old nonprofit should go dark because there was just not a clear path to continuing to make it sustainable financially, as well as for the physical structure of that organization owning that building. There just was so much confusion, I would say, by folks not understanding that, oh no, the nonprofit owns the building and the nonprofit got zero funding, to operate from the state or from the city, right? It was its own entity. And so a self-funded business research library in a historic building, there's a few things there that could possibly go sideways.
Right. So what's going on with the building now, and how is it setting?
Sure. So still helping with that board of directors, a smaller board, but so the library now is a private foundation. So helped to transition that, facilitated a sale of the building last summer. And so now the entity is a private foundation supporting entrepreneurship and new Americans through scholarships in and around the Twin Cities.
Okay, here's a few more of our supporters. Listen, people, everyone needs a bank. Not just any bank, a good community bank. From personal needs like checking and savings accounts to business services like financing and M&A support, the team at Flagship Bank is there to provide you with the assistance you need so you can spend less time thinking about your finances and more time enjoying what your money can do for you. To learn more, head over to flagshipbanks.com. That's flagshipbanks with an S.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Flagship Bank, investing in you. The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference. When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at BoulayGroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. And back to the show.
Connect the dots. You started this a few years ago, and so you are an EOS implementer, and we've talked about EOS on this show before. So that's an entrepreneurial operating system. And so why did you decide that you wanted to start this business and dig into helping small businesses?
Sure. So first off, the name, people are always like, what's this Connect the Dots business? So when I was coming out and I knew, what the direction looked like at the Hill Center, I met with probably 20 people over the course of less than a week. During 3 conversations in that time frame, 3 people, I was asking, well, what do you think I do best? Right? Like from the outside, people that I've known for a while, tell me, like, will you connect? 3 people said, will you connect the dots? You figure out who needs to know what, that goes with which, that, needs to know so-and-so, right? And so that's kind of where the name came from, while I was deciding what was going to be best. And so, I looked back at my Minnesota business days, because for me, that was a really positive experience, focusing in on small and mid-sized businesses. And one of the things I definitely recall was how many of them were running on EOS. Like that was a common thread of many of these organizations. And so, I took some time to reflect and make sure it was a good fit for me and that it aligned with my values, because that was really important to me. So my options were, do I go back in and lead an organization somewhere? Or I can do a different type of work and instead, in my opinion, have a greater impact, because now I'm able to help not just leadership teams, but the whole organizations, right? Become more clear, become higher functioning, and those types of things. And so I decided that this was the way I could have the most impact moving forward.
Do you, so let's talk about exactly what you do. So as an EOS implementer and being Colby certified, what is the impact that you do specifically have on organizations that need your services?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is clarity, right? Like just getting crystal clear on where you're going, how you're going to get there, right? And helping these teams by facilitating conversations with the leadership teams to come to a consensus and helping them prioritize, right? Those are some of the main things that you see come out of it right away, is just helping to have healthy conversations, possibly healthy conflict, but healthy conversations about, what's best for the organization. Put egos aside, titles aside. Look down at this as if you're on the board of directors, and then let's think about what is the right thing for this business and the right structure.
Do you have share with me a success story that you are really proud of in the way that you impacted a small business?
Oh gosh. I think over the course of time, there's a variety of things, right? Looking back at Minnesota business days, putting a spotlight on what these small businesses are doing in our community for how they give back or their environmental focus and impact. Being able to do that and help elevate their stories, that was a really big piece of what I wanted to do, right? And so, just thinking about the different awards and the different recognitions, providing that voice and those tools and those stories for those businesses to be able to use. Too many people were, chatting about Target and about General Mills, and they're amazing, and our community would not be the same without them. But it's these small and mid-sized businesses that make the difference and employ more people, right? And create the community that we truly live in. And so for me, it's doing whatever I can. So back in that day, it was providing a platform to talk about them. Now it's giving them tools and skills so that they can build a better organization. They can have the right people around them. And that they can see greater success when if and when it's time for them to either sell their business or transition it to the next generation.
Yeah. I always ask everybody, and I always get, so don't be afraid if you just have a non-answer, but what do you see the future holding for you? Is this something that you want to continue, you see yourself doing long-term? Because I think anybody who takes the role as an EOS implementer, I think it's a nice business because it allows you to have a good congruence in your life. I hate the word work-life balance, but it is more congruence, right? So it allows you to do some of those things. Do you see yourself continuing to go on with this? If you had the right opportunity leading an organization, would you take it? Are you happy with being the owner of Connect the Dots? What do you see?
I'm not gonna lie, not having 30 people reporting to me has been a nice break.
Yeah.
I love being a leader, right? And having a team. Because part of me really misses that, right? These last 2 years, I've really shifted and changed. I spend way too much time in this space that I'm in right now, right?
Yeah.
So it would have to be like the perfect opportunity. I feel like I'm talking to Lars.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure he'd keep his eye out for you if you were to say something, but maybe he's even listening. So, but
exactly.
yeah.
Part of the other reason why I decided to take this path and, go down this journey of being an implementer is that it's something I can scale, right? Yeah. If I want 5 clients, I can have 5. If I want 35, like some other people choose to do, that's not my ideal life, but that's theirs. Good for them. But I can choose to scale this. And so that's why I felt like it was the right thing for me. If I'm loving it still 10 years from now, I'll definitely still be doing it for sure. Right. Like I don't see me doing absolutely nothing. And frankly, my husband and I have talked about relocating at some point too. And I can do this work anywhere.
You totally can. Yeah, for sure. Plus, even if you wanted to go move somewhere else and then stay working with Twin Cities clients, because there's a lot of EOS implementers that I know that work exclusively virtually. So, there's different ways of being able to manage that. Before we transition into 9 questions, tell me a little bit about your family, your immediate family.
Sure. So been married to my husband, Bill, 25 years this year. So Congrats. That's a big old milestone. And then we have a 22-year-old son, Will, and a 21-year-old daughter, Lizzie.
Awesome.
And so, she is pursuing her nursing degree. So she is almost done with that at the University of Minnesota. And then my son studied cybersecurity and network administration.
Cool. Does he have a job in cybersecurity?
Oh, Aaron.
Yeah.
There's so much more to that.
Well, hey, let's talk after this because I know people. If that's a challenge, I actually know people in cybersecurity. I actually had this conversation yesterday with someone. So let's take that offline and
let's do that.
If that's a challenge. Our listeners right now, reach out to Tamara. And if you're in cybersecurity, reach out to Tamara and she'll connect the dots with Will. He's gonna love me. He'll get over it. All right. So let's dig into 9 questions. Can you confirm to me? Yeah. All right. I can see the smile on your face. Can you confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
This is absolutely true. Hence my nervous energy.
Good. Yep, you're going to do just fine. All right, question 1. Yes. What guilty pleasure do you indulge in?
I would probably say red wine.
Oh, there you go. I share that with you as well. If you could be any color in that big 152 color case, what color would you be?
You know what? It's kind of this is kind of my color right here, kind of this darkish blue, little gray, little black in there. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's literally, I don't know. I'm attracted to this color. I don't know why.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have that so besides that shirt you have on, do you have that aesthetic throughout your house a little bit? Or yeah, I see it. I see a lot of those deeper tones. So I like it.
Mouse cat, right? Mouse
Yeah.
cat.
It is all over the place. All right, that's a good answer. That's cool.
I don't know what it is exact. I'll have to do a little more research on the exact name, but
yeah,
it's not bird Sienna. I don't know what it is.
We'll do a follow-up on that one.
Excellent. Love it.
Awesome. Okay, on your computer, Microsoft or Google, and why?
On my computer, well, I run on a Mac, but
Okay.
I run Windows on my Mac.
Okay, so you're a Microsoft person. Why do you choose Microsoft over Google? Because this is a big debate that people have: the Google Workspace versus Microsoft Office 365. I thought you're the first person I asked this question to, so I want to dig into some of this stuff.
Yeah, you bet. Mostly because it is what I have had at all of my workplaces, and so I've just kept going in that direction.
Mhm.
That being said, I mean, I've got Dropbox, I got
Yep.
OneDrive, I've got Share. I mean, there's too many. I got too many places where I'm keeping crap. So that's one of my goals for 2023.
Good. Let's make that an 18-month goal.
Yes.
We maybe touched on this, but you got to choose one. What do you feel is your superpower?
I think my superpower is the ability to be, this is going to be a run-on superpower. It's like empathy, right? It's like, I feel like I can be very empathetic, especially with the clients that I'm working with. Like I've been there, I've led organizations, I get it. I think I can be a good listener, but I can also hold people accountable. Right. And
but I think that all rolls into, you can make that all roll into empathy. So if we're going to choose one, because I think, good, healthy accountability and being able to communicate effectively, that leads to empathy. Being a good listener, obviously that's a big part of empathy. So I think that's a fair, that to me is a fair answer of just empathy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's funny. I was talking about this yesterday. Somebody was saying, well, I think your superpower is A, B, and C. And one of the things that came out of it was that in this, we all agreed that this is not the phrase, right? But kind of the camp counselor mother hen, right? Like I have that part in me. Yeah. But then there's, the other side of, that's my son. Well, I'll tell you, the feedback that I've gotten from our Coalition 9 group that you lead is that, right? Like we get constant, we do surveys after every session, and it's always positive feedback on your style. So you're doing something right. So use that as a superpower. All right. What is one thing that you own that you wish you didn't? I have a very old dolly that is sitting down there, that it's kind of like my Pinterest dream is down in my basement, and it's frightening. So yes, it's bad. It's bad. All right. All right. I was going to make a table. Yeah. Aspirational. Yes, what is your favorite book? I really enjoyed, as part of our, what we talked about for Coalition 9, I think the Go Giver is great. I think I believe in karma, so it does come back. But those principles, I think, are really important, and I feel like I lead with those kinds of things. Yeah. I'm gonna just say, Gino would be bummed that you didn't say traction. I was gonna say I have to say traction. If I need to say traction, but then I'm like, that sounds super cliche. Oh yeah, for sure. You could have said, let me see. It's a tie between traction and rocket fuel and entrepreneurial leap and how to be a good boss. And yeah, so all right. Well, I'm glad you didn't go that direction, but we all know that that's a given. But I will also say, one of my favorite folks, so that I follow, Adam Grant. love,
Oh, me too.
love everything about Adam Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's anybody that follows Adam Grant on Twitter, he actually interacts really good. He and I actually had a good direct message conversation yesterday about something he posted. And
Nice.
yeah, he interacts with me pretty good.
Yeah, I just huge fan of his.
Huge fan as well. Where is your happy place?
My happy place is probably more of like a lake, quiet, not around a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of, I mean, I like the beach, but like for me, in the woods, just quiet, sitting on a boat, floating.
Yeah. Very Minnesotan of you. What is the average time you go to bed and the average time you wake up?
Well, these things have changed a lot over the last year. So I would say average time to bed is probably, I'm trying to adapt, but probably 11:30-ish, 12.
Yeah.
And then like if no one's around bothering me, I'll probably, maybe roll out at about 9.
Yeah. All right. Good for you.
There's also reality of work.
Yeah, right. That damn business gets in the way. What is one thing you do to keep yourself grounded?
Have 20-year-old children.
There you go.
They'll keep you grounded.
I don't doubt that'll keep you grounded. Heck yeah. Great. That was it. You did it. We hammered through it. Yeah. That was 9. Congrats. So before we go, I want to make sure people know where to find you and that you can share all your particulars. So I do want to say we will link these in the show notes. So fire away on where people can find you.
You bet. Website, tamaraprato.com. I can also be found on the EOS Worldwide website, but I spend most time on probably LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Is probably one of the best places just to see kind of what I'm up to and who I'm connected with. So that was probably be the best place.
Yeah, cool. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. I cannot thank you enough for being such an amazing facilitator for our leaders in our expanding group that you lead for Coalition 9. I'm so happy that our paths have crossed again and that we're doing some really cool things together and we're all making a positive impact on the greater business community.
I love it. I am honored to be a part of the community and so happy to have been here today. And even amidst all of the crazy happening.
There's a little bit of that in the background. I was going to say something. We're going to try and clean some of that up. But for those of you the listeners, let's just say it how it is. Your cleaning person showed up a little too early. You had to go shake them down a little bit, and they apparently are not very good at listening. So we are going to transition to goodbye. Tamara, thank you so much for being on. On behalf of Tamara Prato, this has been the Power of 9 podcast. I am your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.